Come on, I'm going to go to the next student.
There are a lot of.
You need to highlight the different. Just to highlight it.
See better. It's too long.
It's coming tonight. Nothing but your phrases, all that started. All right.
What's that?
Yeah, yeah, Molly got a little bit of your fault. But. Yeah, that was.
Oh, yeah. So just thinking to myself nervously. I'm gonna have to be remote next time too. How much gonna be? No, I'm gonna be parenting. She went to Europe for 10 days last summer and I parented just fine. No, it was actually a really nice couple of days. It's me and the kids. So it was a lot of fun.
Just for you.
For
Make sure the schedule's on extra fun. For the kids.
you know, the community's name extra beyond that. Like they got to have their friends come over and stuff, but other than that, we just hung out.
That's why I'm frequently asked what I read.
Well, hoping that our chair will be able to join us soon, but it's 7 p.m. I'm gonna go ahead and call over the February 13th Pleasantville School District board meeting. Still doing these, streaming these live, right?
Yeah.
Are we on?
Yes.
All right. We're gonna start with pledge of allegiance. Wait.
Just in time. Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic, and one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. I'll go ahead and read the mission statement. Our mission is to graduate all students with high levels of academic and personal achievement, ready for post-secondary excellence, prepared for productive, compassionate citizenship through research-based instruction and a collaborative system of support.
Thank you all for being here. Would you please introduce yourselves?
Garth Drow, high school, middle school principal.
The Conley Special Education Director.
Deborah Stumberg, elementary principal. Rose Hildy, Lane ESD board member. Linda Hamilton, my ESD chairperson.
Tony Screw, ESD superintendent.
Hi, I'm a big choir teacher. Matt Kendrick, band teacher.
April Bernacki, parents.
Over, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, thank you all for being here. What did we have for attendance at our previous board meeting? Person in line?
9 online and 9 on site.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, 4.0.
Wait, we didn't do 2.0.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jumped ahead. 2.0. Changes or deletions to the agenda, have I?
Yes, so 6.6, which is to approve the out-of-state request for band. I just received that tonight, right before governing, so I need time to go and do that. So I recommend we move that to the 27th board meeting.
Okay, when is the out-of-state trip?
And the teachers are here.
April 27th.
Okay. Does that gives adequate time? On that end?
We actually should book the hotel and the bus sooner than that, or than available.
I would suggest, I mean, I know it's a deletion, but I was going to add to, once Jim told me that to add it again to the agenda as a discussion item, because when I saw it on the agenda, I had questions. So I'm still intent on asking those questions, so. Not sure, I can't remember exactly when we do discussion items, but. Would like to add it at some point to discuss that, so I just need some clarification.
Clarification on.
Well, I mean, I was curious when I saw it, just in terms of if this is something, I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it sounds like there may be in general, just some things that hadn't been occurring before this year that should have been occurring. I was wondering if this is one of those things, because my understanding is these trips have been occurring with some regularity while I've been on the board. There's never been a request, and also their student activities, student involved activities are out of state, and those have not come to the board. So I was just curious.
So I don't know how many trips got taken place since coming back out of COVID, or how many of them were coming to you before COVID, but there is board policy that requires board approval for out-of-state trips. There was not a process in place that I could find where and where, so I put that process in place. And so I know word is out to the staff as far as doing that, same with Mr. Stewart, with the staff on fundraisers as well. So the staff's coming in and getting approval for fundraisers as well.
Is this specifically because it's out of state?
It's specific to out of state, yes.
So we can expect something similar for like the DC trip.
That last meeting.
Yeah, we've never had that one.
Okay, hence my confusion.
Yeah.
I'm curious on the timing, and I want to put it out there just for clarification and for the sake of transparency that, I mean, this has been my understanding, something that's been planned by the music department since the beginning of the school year. When it went out on their calendar, and I'd anticipated that because my daughter's in band and she knew about it, and had put forth a request to be one of the chaperones on that trip. So I have a daughter in band. I actually have somebody who would be going on this trip, but I was in band, participating in the same program here at P Hill, and went on these trips myself. So just for transparency's sake, that I had some level of anticipation on being a chaperone on this trip as well as my daughter going and having this opportunity, so I want that out there. But I'm curious. The new process is put in place and it's made known to the employees or the staff at what point compared to when they first started planning on going on this trip.
That I don't know, because we didn't know, that they were going on the trip.
Until,
December.
Yeah, right around the break.
Yeah,
Should we leave this as an action item and discuss it, 6.7?
that's what I was curious.
And we can find out what information you've got. And
yeah, I don't have any, so I received the final, I would assume the final, the night before I came to the meeting, so I haven't had time to review it. I received one previous, I sent it back to Mr. Giroux to say this needs to be completed more, so in areas where it said hotel, it was just hotel, in areas where it said, transportation, it just said charter, so. Maybe some direction from you guys, I want to bring you something that says we are prepared to take kids out of state. Because that is a big undertaking. We want to make sure we have chaperones, that we have a bus that's got an appropriate licensed driver, that it's insured, and that there's plans in place that if people on the bus, that is, if that bus were to break down in the middle of nowhere, that we know what to do with kids. And I have not had time to review the completed application yet.
I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask, but I'd also like to keep us in order of our agenda. So, may not be an action item, but it's certainly a discussion item.
I don't foresee anything getting in the way of the group being able to take a trip. But again, before bringing it to you as the board for a decision, I want to make sure that it's a complete proposal.
But there's a timing issue with what I heard.
The timing issue is this, is even giving it back in November, I'm asking for 90 days, which gives us plenty of time to be able to make a decision so that fundraising, things like that can then in a timely manner, because if funds are not done by the time that the trip is ready, then the trip doesn't happen. Funds need to be there.
Well, are you making a motion then to
Yes.
Add it
I'd like
to
to
the
move
agenda.
to add to the agenda discussion about the out-of-state trip. It's gonna be an action item, so I guess it would be 6.7. All right, we could leave it at 6.6.
Yeah, we just need a 6.6.
That's 6.6. Is there a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second to add 6.6 or leave it on our agenda. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, opposed. Okay, we'll discuss it further. 6.6. 4.0 Lane ESD 2023-25 Global Service Plan presentation.
All right,
I see a familiar face.
It's gonna be less and less familiar with time, which is changing and the hair is leaving the head and all sorts of companies on. But thank you very much for having us on your agenda tonight. It's a big agenda. I won't take hopefully too long, but I just want to kind of go over once again for you veteran board members what the process is here. With the new superintendent, we're still communicating about how things are working. But one of the ways that this local service plan works, it's required by laws for the 19 education service districts in Oregon to get the requests for services on their 19 or in our case 16 diploma district leaders or superintendents. We meet monthly, and part of our meetings involve quite a few things, but some of it does involve the local service plan. And essentially the local service plan that I believe you have a packet of, which is pretty lengthy, quite a few things in there. But there are four major categories of services that education services are required to provide to the component services. One is special ed services, two is school improvement services, three is technology, and four is administrative services. And the superintendents actually took action on this in our December meeting and voted in favor of it. our Lane is the board. Reintroduce, will be, they took action on it and approved it in January, and between January, February, up until March 1st, we're asking our component school districts to vote on it. It's a pretty democratic process. We have to have over half of the districts in the county in favor of it, and of those districts, over half of the students in the county have to be residing in those districts. So it's possible we have a 12 to 4 votes in favor, but if the big 3 districts decide not to, we're likely not to have enough students in those districts to pass it. Same is true of the boards that we ask to pass it. So President will have 1 vote, and then your students will be weighted. I'm happy to report the superintendent's passed it unanimously. So we're hoping to get the same support. But tonight, the main reason is to kind of show you a little more, as Jim and I communicated, about what some of the specific things you guys might be looking to do with the ESD. Specific presidential orders. I do recall a few superintendents ago that when I was here, we spent more money at the ESD than we actually had in the ESD. So what this shows you is in the upper right-hand corner, it shows you the amount of flex dollars that you get. Essentially, the ESDs are going to hold on the money for our 16 component school districts. You can spend that money on our services. The services that we've offered are listed here. This is the services for the 2022-23 school year. They're not going to change much in 23-24 according to the local service plan. But with this, you can see kind of where your money is being spent at the ESD. The other thing you see is you look down the lower right-hand side, you can see that you have not spent all of your ESD allocated flex dollars. You get to take that money back into your general fund. So again, that's changed since a few years ago when we were spending more than we're getting. Some of that, I think, is there's been some internal hiring of some key specialist positions that are now present in place.
Is that flex amount determined?
So we get the ESDs are included in the state school fund, and the 19 ESDs get 4.5% of the state school fund. Of that, the money is also weighted or distributed out in a weighted formula to the size of the ESD as well. And once we get our allotment at Lane ESD, 90% of it has to be spent on component school districts. And then that 90% is divided. First of all, there's a chunk that goes to core services that everybody pays into, and that would be school improvement and also technology are the biggest areas of core, and everything else on the special education services and others we can put on the menu. And the flex dollars after the core are determined based upon the student size of the students, student baby and that. So that's how your amounts determined. Jim and I have been talking, and then those superintendents kind of talking also as we anticipate the 23-24 school year, which is what this local service plan is based upon. It's for next year. But what's the allotment going to be? What's your flex dollars going to look like? Right now, we're speculating. I don't have it on paper to hand out. We do have a model that shows what it might look like at 9.9 million, which is the governor's recommended budget. But again, those of you who've been with school districts for a while know that we can't necessarily set the number right now and be assured that that's going to be the number to go forward with. So we have a way of actually just moving that up or down, depending on what we might be hearing from the legislature. So that was something that your business office and the superintendent will have that will be able to check that as we go through. Trying to think if there's any, I guess a couple of things just to highlight. One would be there are services our districts ask from us to provide, and then there's some services that this is mainly a phenomenon in kind of the last 8 to 10 years. Some services that the Oregon Department of Education asked ESDs to help implement. And so one of those would be what I think your superintendent knows is the integrated guidance plan. And so you get money, all districts get money coming in different streams, and oftentimes those streams come with reporting elements that have to go back. And ODE came up with an idea of trying to see if there's a better way to grade those streams on the front end and providing more community input in terms of what to spend that money on, and then to streamline some reporting on the other. And we've got a team of folks that the ESD that have been helping with that. And I know there's been some participation from President on that with a couple big events at LCC, where first of all, we invited a lot of community partners in, a lot of nonprofit folks in to help with the community engagement and some of the planning. And then about a month ago, the LCC had a big workforce component in terms of really trying to connect with career technical education. So the feedback on that has been pretty favorable from the districts. So that's kind of a new thing. This kind of comes a little backwards because it comes from the state down instead of the district up. And that's also a little part of our thing. So that, if there are any questions, we got to answer now or see anytime. So I'm here. Do my best shot.
If I was looking through this, going, I didn't recognize the high cost pool for the first time.
So. And the reason I'm responding is because that actually was planned initially with the district like Pleasant Hill in mind. It's designed for a school district that happens to have just in any given year, a disproportionate number of students who have high cost disability needs. And so as based on the size of the district, if let's say there's a disproportionate number of students that high cost services that are needed, this fund actually subsidizes the amount that those districts might pay. And so in any given year, it could be 3 or 4 different districts that receive some of that money. And it was actually that Pleasant Hill at one point had a very large disproportionate number. And it just happened that as that got implemented, we no longer had a disproportionate number. It was back to normal and other districts have more. So it varies. The one thing is the big 3 districts can't use that money. So it's not a lot, but it could help a smaller district, whereas a big district wouldn't help. So they decide they don't really need it.
Have we had that for quite a while? I didn't know.
Probably going back to, yeah, it's been quite a while. It's varied in terms of the amount it's in. I think it's been as much as 500,000 in some years, but that was when we were sharing with the big 3 districts. Now there's 100,000. The superintendents could decide in any given year to get rid of it or to add more to it. But it tends to be about 4 or 5 districts in the county. And it's a different 4 or 5.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Any other questions for Tony?
Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate seeing you every year.
I was gonna say, I didn't get back on that, and Jim's come out to visit me, and I just have to come back out to visit. Looking forward to coming back. Part of it was the pandemic, so they down. The other part of it is just, you know, I feel the need to get out of business. It's a lot more fun to be out of business. So I'll be working.
Yeah, for the public, Tony was instrumental in helping this district when we were faced with the superintendent crisis last spring, summer, and helping us find some interim help while we searched for an interim. And his efforts and his advice were fantastic. So it was really appreciated.
And that's a good example of that. And then what are the administrative services you provide? Well, those aren't as big, but in cases like that.
Yeah, thank you again for that.
Thanks.
I know you all would probably want to just sit through the entire meeting, but if you do sneak out the door somewhere along the line, I think we can answer at any time.
Can I ask a quick question? I didn't see the flyer for the Pleasant Hill Education Foundation event. And the last time you were supposed to have it was Mardi Gras at the Ford alumni. I brought my outfit and went there and nobody was there. So can you put that, it's coming up, I like to support, the last one I went to was at venue 252. And the young students, I can't remember the band name, but they showed up and showed out with music, they were a band from here. So, and thank you, young man, it's nothing like having someone on the board that has to about it.
Yeah, thank you for being here tonight. At 5.0 public forum. Individuals who are on site during this portion of the board meeting, members of the public are specifically invited to present items of commendation and or concerns. At the discretion of the board chair, further public participation may be allowed at the time specific agenda items are under consideration by the board. Individuals who are viewing online, PHSD posts the upcoming agenda on our website the Friday before regularly scheduled Monday school board meetings. This will allow for public comment prior to the board meeting. Please click on the tab provided to share your comments for the school board to consider at the upcoming meeting. Personnel matters may not be discussed in public at a school board meeting. Members of the public who have personnel concerns or accommodations should share them directly with the district superintendent. So, do we have any public comment?
So I had intended to speak regarding the music trip, but if you're okay with me chipping in later, I hope we're down that path again.
Okay, we'll let you chip in later when we get to it. That's all right. Any other? Go ahead.
I have a question. Are we going to have a working drinking fountain at the track come this spring and summer? I have kids who do sports there, and there wasn't one working at all last year during the summer when they have lots of long practices.
That sounds like a good question for Mr. Chris.
I don't know the history of the balance in, or whether or not it was turned off or turned back on after the pandemic, and because of the pandemic. So I will put it on my list with facilities to see what's going on there.
You know, the school health committee is supposed to have done an inventory of all the different fountains, and we were told they all work. So I don't know how that fits into your question, but I'll bring it up the Shacks committee also. And interject.
Was it not working last summer as well?
It was, I don't know if it was technically working, but it was never turned on. My son said there's a hose they'll sometimes turn on for people, but you have to have a key to get it to the thing to turn on.
Is the fountain located in the snack shack?
Yeah. And it's like that.
The wintertime, it may be turned off just freezing, but
Yes, I understand that, I usually see that, but it never was turned back on.
Right, do we have any other further comment? Okay, we'll move on to 6.0 board action items. 6.1 is approval of the consent agenda. And we have the 6.101 January 9th board meeting minutes. Have those of you who were present at that time had a chance to take a look at those? Right, all those, well, I guess they need a motion. Motion to approve those minutes.
We need to approve the consent agenda.
sorry.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. 6.2 is approve the superintendent contract. And I know that was included in the packet, and I did shoot it out late, but I didn't know if, no, we'll gotta look at it. Stephen has. Trustee, so everyone's had a chance to look at that. So then, I know, Willie, you had a issue with language.
Just one. And I could be talked out of it, but I think it was bullet point 12 on the superintendent duties. And it talked about having an administrative team that made all decisions about school improvement. And typically our FIP committee weighed in on that. And that is the administrative team is defined as the administrators and teacher representation. There was no mention of community representation or student representation. Right. The FIP committee usually has historically had a student representative and a community representative. I thought that should be involved.
And I thought about your comment on that. And the people who are mentioned that in that bullet point are employees of the district and under the ultimate supervision of the superintendent, whereas a member of the public or student would not be. So down at the bottom, it says, and any other duties the board may see fit. The board could strongly suggest that, you know, a community member and a student be on such a committee. But to require a contract, then the superintendent couldn't, much like us getting a student representative to this meeting, we can't force a student to come here.
I see your point. I strongly encourage that in the student, yeah. Maybe represent that committee. Love to see the contract, because I wouldn't just be strongly encouraging our director, we would be director. But if I don't rule the universe, nor do all of us rule the universe, so leave it as strong.
Okay.
Told that we talked. Reluctantly.
I think your point's taken. Well, we need a motion to approve the contract.
I so move.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. 6.3 update policy EFA local wellness program. This is the first reading.
Yes, this will be a first read, and we talked about this briefly at a couple of other meetings, going back to the SHAC committee and then updating, looking for updates for the local wellness program or policy EFA that would include language around social emotional learning. And so you see on the policy, there's a highlighted portion. And it is an updated OSBA policy that is able to locate that adds to the sentence there. So the entire sentence or the paragraph of the read. So there are other activities that promote student wellness. The district will integrate wellness activities throughout the entire school environment, not just in the cafeterias or other food and beverage venue and physical activity facilities. And this is the new sentence, and include the integration of social, emotional, and mental health supports in school programs. For example, promote a positive school climate where respect is encouraged and students can seek help from trusted adults. So the first reader is looking for adding that particular sentence around social, emotional learning and health support student policy.
And that is one that is mandated by.
Yes.
That's the first reading. Are we going to approve that now or wait for a second reading? This has been what we are practiced in the past. I know we've kind of jumped back and forth on what we were doing there.
Didn't we already read it once?
Not officially as a first reader with the board agenda.
Oh, okay.
So I'd given you guys, I think, a sample early on, went back to the SHAC committee after Steve Kelly was here to ask questions about purpose of the SHAC committee and how they either inform or don't inform their policy. So after the SHAC committee reviewed it and then brought it to you here for the first reading.
So it was my second reading.
Yes.
And the SHAC committee strongly endorses this change of policy. Vision.
Which I don't know if it matters or not. It doesn't hurt to take an approval of first reading to add it. That's what we do.
I would think since it's been to the SHAC committee and so forth, it would be appropriate to go ahead and look for a motion to adopt this policy.
I'll move.
We go down a second.
I'll move to adopt this. Well, the official name, the
EFA.
local wellness program. As written in this exhibit 223.78.
I'll second
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. 6.4 approved Lane ESD 2023-25 local service plan year one.
Did have one more question. What happens to the flex dollar balance? You know,
You said it was returned to our general fund.
to our general fund?
Yeah, is that, did I hear that correct?
I believe you're right. This is some new stuff to me, but I have talked to Tony about that for the year, and that is my recollection as well.
Would you like me to weigh in on this? This is Sherry. We estimate what will be not used in the flex plan, and we actually count that as revenue. So it'll be budgeted as revenue, as anticipated revenue.
And it was approximately that amount.
I'm not looking at that, but we didn't vary much from it.
It looks like the flex dollar balance is $78,000.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay,
So that gets returned to us in 2 or 3 payments throughout the year from Lane ESD.
Sherry, have we ever had a flex balance before?
Yes. When it changed from us having to pay Lane ESD to them paying us is when we hired our own psychologist and some of the other, that was the big change, because instead of paying them for that service, we paid the person directly and they paid us the flex dollars back.
Thanks.
do we have any other questions or comments on? Look for a motion to approve that then.
I move to approve the mobile wellness plan year 1,
6.4, we, Lane ESD.
6.4, Lane ESD 2023-25, local service.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 6.5, approved OSAA collective sponsorship between Pleasant Hill and Crestwell for boys and girls tennis during the 22-23 school year. And Jim, you have a comment on this one?
Yeah, we're just asking the board tonight to approve, planning for Pleasant Hill students to play tennis, and able to do that under with a collective sponsorship for Crestwell School District. We did this recently, earlier in the year with Churchill High School Swinger as well. So we've got some interesting students wanting to play tennis, and so Crestwell's agreed to do a collective sponsorship with us.
And I know we've done it in the past with other sports as well. Any comments?
I move to approve the collective sponsorship between our school and Crestwell. Boys and girls tennis during the 22-23 school year. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
These are bulldogs.
Oh, just put a B on it, you know, cover it. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. 6.6, approve out of state trip request for the band, and myself, I'm not comfortable approving it tonight because Jim has not received the information in time to review it, to give us the recommendation that we should approve it. I would say, though, that I am fine with the idea of it happening if it meets the criteria set forth by the superintendent to make it safe for the students. I guess that's my personal views of tentative approval or conditional approval. But I don't know what the rest should be.
So it sounds reasonable to me. I'm all in favor of band trips, I'm all in favor of a band, for sure. I think we need more information.
Yes, and getting out in front of this, I think in the future, I've been I think a parent has done some fundraising as well for my boys to go take out of state trips. And in a normal year, normal situation, these things will come through, people know about them and get out in front. I think as far as tentative agreement to go ahead and book a hotel and get those things taken care of, I think an agreement that we'll do, we need to make sure the kids can take the trip.
Yeah, I was about to comment on that because it sounded like that was a concern. It would be unfortunate for, I mean, it's important red tape to next trip that's been planned since the beginning of the school year. And I understand that there may have been some communication stuff there that I'm not aware of, but yeah, I don't know that. Seems like something major to be missed until December.
Is there a process for conditional approval?
No, that's something new.
We did have somebody from the community just for their comment until now. So I want to make
Okay.
sure they have an opportunity to speak.
Sure, so. Obviously, I see a lot of familiar faces up here, but I went on band trips with. This is an important piece of providing excellence in education. Pleasantville has taken part in for a long time. The kids have been really excited. It was on the syllabus this year, so this has been known since the beginning. It was actually discussed with the previous administration last year, and last year, unfortunately, canceled by COVID. We do appreciate and grace on the SEC procedures are put in place. We are absolutely happy to follow them in the future, but right now we're kind of running blind. I've done some discussions with the bus company. That's going to be our biggest. We need to get that book ASAP if we haven't missed already. And there's a 14-day cancellation period. After that, we will be liable for cancellation fees. So we'd like to get that booked, and if we can have official approval, I guess by the 27th, that would give us some time to for the cancellation deadline that comes up. I will say that our funding is already almost entirely in place. We've got donations and grant money and fundraising money already in place that puts this cost at less than $70 per kid, which is insanely low for a trip like this. And there will be no child left behind. There's scholarship money available for those that can't meet fees. And this is just an opportunity that we can't turn down. So we could have conditional approval to go ahead and get these reservations in place while we gather the appropriate information. Really appreciate that.
I haven't heard where you're going. Or maybe I
The
didn't.
University of Nevada at Reno, it's one of the large, I think it's the largest jazz festival in the West. Colleges, high schools from all over the country will come. Professors from music school all over the country. This is the place to get scholarships, a great place to network and build a context for life.
Any thoughts, Drew?
No, it sounds good to me. Yeah, but if it's everything looks good to Jim, well, support it.
Yeah, it was similar to Mr. Mineson's trip that he got into us, we'll do whatever we can to get returned back to normal. We didn't get taking trips.
I think we could certainly conditionally approve it on your conditions being satisfied.
Absolutely.
So, you wanna, make a motion to that? Fine, sir.
Okay, I'll do that. Let's see, I move that we conditionally approve the out-of-state band trip request.
Second.
I'm not sure if this is something I should recuse myself from. Considering I volunteered to be chaperone on the trip. I mean, I'm just putting it out there just in case the optics of someone come up that the board member approved a trip for him to go to Reno. Obviously, I'll be paying for it. That's on the public record.
The board can go along. Go for it. We got room on that.
I think you publicly mentioned your conflict that you won't, I think anyone's gonna hold it against the word. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay,
Can I ask that can you provide the conditions that your requirements?
I haven't looked at the application yet to see if everything filled out as far as the information. But
Okay. So do we know? Okay, it's still not.
that was the last one was what the gave as far as the hotel that we were staying at, the charter, bus that we were using. So
7.0 reports, information. 7.1 recognition of National School Counseling Week, February 6th through 10th, 2023.
Yes, we just wanted to take a moment, even though it's February 13th, that last week was National School Counseling Week. From the district level, we recognize that through our reader board through the week. Appreciate the work and efforts that our counselors go through each day, working with students individually and as a school community.
Point oh, board communication. We don't have any items under that.
Before we just note there, when we have our staff appreciation week, we'll certainly have it accomplished, included in that recognition. Like, all those who are involved with counselors, please tell them how much we appreciate them and how we will recognize them, but not at their week.
Extras goodbye school. 9.0 is work session. 9.1 is the superintendent board operating agreement. So everyone had a chance to look at that.
We left this last, if I remember right, this was operating agreements that Steve brought, which were a little more comprehensive than the original operating agreements between the board and Superintendent Leinenberger. And then the thought was to go with a more complete list, but I believe there was a couple of board members gone during that meeting as well. So the idea was to bring this back to the board for everyone to review together.
I read through it, it looked pretty similar to what we had before.
I think it's more comprehensive.
I wasn't here for that meeting. Does it summarize what was discussed at the meeting?
I think Steve Kelly's, our point was that we always have a board, we've been fortunate to have a board that's been pretty aware of our responsibilities, and we didn't feel the need to put it all down on paper. But Steve Kelly advised, the advice was that we have it down on paper, all these various things, because we can't always count on having a board that is as collaborative as our tradition has been. Well, we do have new board members coming in, gender, whatever reason, deal with the family, those kind of people.
And we agreed to be nice. Which we all said was silly until I went home and watched the 4-day school board. And then I realized this is an important document.
Yeah, it has not been for us, but potentially civil.
Well, we did spend some time talking about that very thing. Civility, many board members and the superintendent report also highlighting the priority of that. And to me seems obvious, but probably needs to be stated.
I think the most important thing in this for our board is, well, not the most important, but fairly often we get communications to us from many members, and they'll address all of us that are concerned. And it's really tempting to jump on the computer to answer that right away. But, and we can do that, but when we do that, we should be sure to say that we're only speaking for ourselves, not for the board. And I think, I don't know we've always done that. Real anxious to reach out to the public, and the public reaches out to us. But we can't speak for the board. I think we should make it real clear that we're not speaking for the board. Unless we have somebody who's like the chair who's doing it. And that's in here somewhere. Can't remember where.
That's at the top second page, right? Is that what you're referring to? Statement is made on behalf of the board and the designation of a spokesperson.
Yeah, or. Yeah, right, top of the second page. Individual board members make statement as individual. If an individual response, constituent is made, the board member has the responsibility to make clear they are speaking as an individual. Not
Did I say first page?
Hmm?
Did I say first page?
doesn't matter. That's just
Second page.
Yeah. there's-
top of the page. But that's an important.
Heard a little bit from the board. About from the superintendent.
I like the, little more comprehensive than I think the previous ones. I think it captures a really great, set of agreements. That can serve as a foundation, and if they need to grow, they can certainly go from here. Yeah. But I think it's comprehensive in what it covers.
You don't have any suggestions for adding, deleting anything on there? Rewording?
I don't, but I'm also, I think like Rusty had brought up, like. We kind of, I am new to this process of working with the board as well, as far as the agreements, and so the things that come to mind are captured in here around, especially the communication pieces. There's other pieces in here I think that you often don't know that you need until it's presented in front of you. And again, I think this is a solid foundation.
Yeah, no, most of me, it makes sense to have it. You're not needing to pull it out at the current time.
All right, well, it's a work session, so we're just looking at and seeing if there's anything we want to add or take away from it. And then at a later date, it would be something that would be approved by the board.
I don't think we need to have expectations that are priority for the student. I don't think any of these things are where they have something like that.
And like, it's kind of like you said, it may not always be our practice, so. it doesn't hurt.
Right, but every year, this is the fall back in the upcoming school year. So I don't think we have any of this. Every year we do that.
We're gonna have boards.
Anything else on the operating agreement? 9.0 integrated guidance plan review.
Yes. So this is in slide in your packet. We've talked about the integrated guidance plan for a few months now, and the kind of rubber hitting the road as far as putting it in place. It was due to Department of Education the month of March. It requires a couple weeks notice to public for review, and so the 27th, this will show back up on the agenda as well for a basically final review and approval by the board before it goes out. Sherry and I are working behind the scenes as far as attaching budget to the line items. Tony mentioned it again tonight. I talked about it previously. This is a really bringing together a lot of different programs that we've done separately in the past. So our student investment account, high school success, which is page 98, CTE, which is our Perkins funding, early intervention program around this, usually around electronic or data dashboards. The SIP, continuous improvement planning, is taking all those programs and putting it into one plan. So some of this, or I should say a great deal of this is work that has, because of the timing of Scott leaving, me coming in, starting in October, it's been able to grab so much of the work that has been done. integrate with, we met with the 15, we've done some student interviews, a lot of individual interviews with staff members, some interviews with some committee members that have been individual. And so taking all that and putting it together, there's not huge differences in, say, for instance, you look at a SIP plan or our student investment account plan, the CA plan, but there are, I think, some differences going forward as far as the way in which we're wording them through now, done for the plans going forward. So if you go to the first slide, the integrated guidance plan. So going back to the integrated guidance plan has 4 common goals, and these are not goals that are specific to us, but 4 common goals from the state when they put these plans together. So well-rounded education, equity advanced, engaged community, and then strengthen systems and capacity. Slide after that is the integrated guidance plan summary. And so we have looked to take engagement with the community and then also using data. So a piece of data that we use for the health quality survey that we do of students. And then previous work that Scott and community had prepared for investment account planning. Plan that we did with the 15, and then against our student interviews that we took place over at the high school. The second piece there is needs were identified from the community and data engagement. Outcomes were developed to address the identified needs, systems for monitoring and providing accountability to the plan. And lastly, we're working on universal targets for managing plan effectiveness. So community and data engagement, so engage in the following activities. So informal interviews with staff and community by new administration, review of the Oregon Health Authority to help with the survey data, review Oregon at a glance district profile data, and you recognize those from the basically our state assessments. They generally are color coded. The most recent ones, if you've been around long enough, the most recent ones have got nice circular graphs to look at. The 4th engagement was review of existing student investment account and continuous improvement plan documents. Number 5, review of special programs account budgets. So high school success, the CA, career and technical education, early indicator intervention systems. Number 6, 15 engagement, which took place on November 8, 22. Number 7, student focal group interviews are ongoing during the 22-23 school year. So the student support advocate position is a person that we have leaned on to go to identify students and actually sit down and go through basically one-to-one face-to-face interviews. Number 8, Tony references as well, is Lane ESD, LCC, and Lane Workforce. Our partnering, the last event we held was on January 13th at Lane Community College. So the next piece in it was identifying needs. So through the engagement activities, we've identified the following needs. So the first one, develop social emotional learning supports. So social emotional learning is a process designed to support students' well-being and academic performance in areas such as self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. This was a lot of work that's been done in the area prior to the pandemic, but has really been stood out and been important following the pandemic as students have returned to school. Develop learning teams to quickly respond to students' social, emotional, and instructional needs. So, for example, teams identified to meet regularly to analyze student data, reflect on student progress, create action plans that will improve instructional effectiveness and student outcomes. Third, develop written K-12 literacy strategies with identified progress monitoring targets and rules and corresponding professional development. So currently, with our elementary being full title school, they will have a literacy plan in place. K-5, we have recently conducted reading fluency and comprehension tests in grades 6 through 8. And so the plan is to start to extend those strategies up into grades 6 through 8 and eventually 9 through 12. Number 4, develop multi-tiered systems of supports aimed at increasing high quality, well-rounded student learning. So multi-tiered systems of supports is a framework for enhancing the implementation of evidence-based practices to achieve important outcomes for every student. So the framework builds a public health approach that focuses on organizing the efforts of adults within systems to be more effective. So as an example with that is, you have a student that's struggling in a classroom. Teacher may reach out to the parents, may try a number of different strategies to effective change, and just doesn't feel like they're getting anywhere. A process in place or a system in place to be able to bring that student to a larger team, which might include all the teachers, school counselors, school administrators, review of the student's human file, review of the information that this teacher may have on the student, the strategies they may have already tried, and then as a trust, a brain trust of educators, and then working towards either identifying additional information, identifying whether there might be special education needs or assessments that take place to see if special education might be a factor. And then from that teamwork is to come up with strategies to look for improvement and achievement from the student. Next page, and this should be number 6 in the format, sorry, developed outcomes. So from identified needs to now developed outcomes. These are the specific outcomes that will go on the smart sheet when we send this back to the Department of Education. And so we've got 6 identified outcomes. So the first one, Pleasant Hills District develops and implements a kinder, 6th and 9th grade transition program with specific attention to students with disabilities and students receiving tiered supports. So as an example, staggered kindergarten start, springtime team meetings to discuss and transition 5th grade students supports to 6th grade. And 8th grade student supports to 9th grade. So an opportunity for staff will actually get together and discuss what is happening with a particular 5th grade student, group of 5th grade students, what supports are in place, what was working, what didn't work, and then make that handoff as those students get ready to transition to the 6th grade. And the same thing from 8th to 9th. The second developed outcome. Pleasant Hills School District implements a focused approach on student, family, and staff social and emotional learning and SEL supports. So as an example, providing professional development specific to social and emotional learning and creating systems that provide equitable access to those supports to the school community. Third outcome, caring data teams are formed at each school to frequently review student data to inform decision-making processes specific to individual student achievement. And as an example, develop a model of tiered supports and corresponding systems and guidelines for using the model within adult teams to inform decision-making processes aimed at increasing student achievement. So an example of that could be a multi-tiered systems of support, where a teacher might bring a concern regarding a student. One of the rules might be in there, or the system rules might be that the student, tries, or the teacher tries a number of different strategies first and gives it time before we actually move on to a more strict strategy. Number 4, comprehensive literacy strategies, including professional development plans for educators, are documented and communicated to stakeholders. Number 5, Pleasant Hills School District will increase career and college readiness and supports. So as an example, develop a career and college center to coordinate those supports. And the last one, Pleasant Hills School District will increase high quality, well-rounded learning time and implement a system of academic supports. And as an example, align professional development teams and data-driven systems and evaluation. So the next slide goes into strategies. Before I go into strategies, I just want to stop there for a second and see if there was questions or reaction.
Curious what, when it says the develop career college center coordinate, what do you envision that actually looking like?
So currently, in what would be the counseling center, we have our counselor, assistant principal, and athletic director, and then student registrar in that office. And so to actually move our career coordinator into that office, so the 3 of them, between our registrar, our counselor, our career center, and our career coordinator, can actually coordinate their efforts. And so having a calendar of events so that we know we're going to kick a year off with making sure that every senior has got a plan and a coordinated plan that's going to get them to graduation. And if not, then they're working with the student family to make sure that is happening. Working with juniors to see where they're at within their college planning, working with their graduation planning, same with sophomore, same with freshmen. At what time of the year are we going to hold career related like a job fair? How does that coordinate with building a resume? Getting students experience, teaching kids how to utilize that experience and actually put that experience into a resume for seeking a job. So really, it's just like coordinated efforts with everyone in the same room, hearing the same thing throughout the day, planning and integrating their services across the entire building. Right now, we're kind of disjointed, and there's no system, put that together.
That's what I was curious about, is, I mean, when I hear college center, I mean, career and college center, that's what I was picturing, and I wasn't sure if that's actually what that was referring to.
That's the plan.
You know, it all sounds like really good stuff. It also sounds like stuff we've been working on for the past 10 years. So I'm not sure, it's not brand, bright shiny new.
Right.
But it's
I'd say what's lacking is the professional development has not been integrated into the middle and high school. The systems and which are really your measures of accountability to see that it actually is taking place are not in place as well. So those are couple of big lifts as far as change. So much of the funding is also in the way of the student investment account, and a lot of that funding was staffing. So we're not going out and laying people off to reinvent everything and go back through. So the next step is really taking the budget that's already been done, or in the CA account, placing it into here. So it's good to hear that we are. I think it's positive that we're coordinated with what's been happening in the past. Yeah. Next slide is on the strategies for supporting outcomes. And these strategies are really repetitive under each of those outcomes. So what I've done is there's 11 separate strategies that we've done putting forward to the state for approval. And I just pulled those 11 out. But understand that, like, for instance, implement a K-12 multi-tiered system of support to close the opportunity achievement gap. That's one that you can probably see under every single outcome that we've identified. So anyway, that's the very full analysis of this unique. Second one, implement culture responsive pedagogy and curriculum for equitable learning outcomes for all. Third is provide equal access to social, behavioral, and mental health supports. Fourth strategy, implement comprehensive counseling program and mental health supports that focus on trauma-induced practices and social emotional learning curriculum to improve culture and climate of our schools. This strategy utilizes an early warning indicator dashboard and data. So that's one thing as far as being able to access data really pretty quickly in one spot, so we're not having to fish around and actually make decisions on whether or not the data is accurate. Being able to have a dashboard where we can see what our attendance looks like, where we can pull reports to see our ninth graders on track to graduate. This couple of examples. Number 6, introduce all ninth grade students to College Now courses. Number 7, implement literacy support at the secondary level of instruction. Number 8, introduce all 8th grade students to CTE offerings. Number 9 is the ninth grade focus, which we're calling now Future Success. You may have heard it as a ninth grade seminar class previously. Number 10, modernize classroom space. So still updating HVAC, electrical, water, and support programs. Number 11, utilize early release days to design coherent, articulated data-driven systems for staff. And that's one area that we currently don't have as well. We've put some alignment into it starting this January. But as far as sitting down with our bargaining unit and saying, okay, here's our academic calendar, here's the dates we've identified for early release. Here are the days in which the district office is going to utilize. This is where it's aligned to our plan. Here's where our buildings are aligned to our plan, and then coming up with some proposals as far as getting teacher directed days to be aligned as well. Questions about strategies for reaction?
Remind me what College Now courses are.
Those are courses where a teacher would be, have the credentials and be endorsed, say, for instance, the Lane Community College, where they can take it here like a writing course and then receive like a writing and 21 credits for that course.
Thank you. Also, can't remember if we have that staff in place.
We do in some
Right.
cases, yes. Yeah. I don't know exactly how many, I think we've got some advanced.
We got so many qualified people banging on our doors. We got it.
And it's different from the advanced placement in the sense that that placement, the student has to take an actual assessment, pass the assessment. And then depending on the university, writing is a great example. Language arts, I think typically requires a 3 to pass. Some universities want to provide credit to Michigan 4. Whereas the college now courses will transfer into, based on what the colleges and universities.
When I said introduce all students, all ninth grade students, I mean, they all take a college now, or they just have to talk about how they're available.
You know, ultimately, we'd love to build it out in a survey. So our 8th grade class would be easily have to build a survey of what is available through like a 9-week or 18-week course offering. Having that said, the 9th graders coming in, it could be something, right, at least in the beginning, as simple as having our teachers go and actually talk to them about what the offerings are, or have the counselors meet with them when they develop out their academic careers, say here's what's available for you. One of the strategies in here, you know, I hope it's seen, is really about the equitable practices and actually going to the students and saying what you have access to, what don't you feel you have access to. I can say the initial interviews that we've done with some of the students, we're hearing pretty regularly, we'll hear a staff member's name, but they don't know what that staff member does. They know that it's in an area of interest to them, but there's never been an opportunity for them to go sit down and actually utilize that. So that's part of the Grand College Center as well, is where when you walk in, it's full service, it's not a guess which office space. I understand that it is.
We have a lot of opportunity to future success, to expose kids early to the offering, to mix up the staff, and a lot of those things can be integrated into that class.
And that will help. Just as far as communication, I think it's becoming evident as we go further into the spring, kind of getting closer to springtime. And kids are getting closer to graduation or choosing a career path, that the coordination of communication hasn't been there. And so some of the information that students are getting is just not accurate. So being able to get out, also there's a career college center. Here's what the different people do, and staff will know this and as well.
A few years ago, we had a presentation that was tag student coming up to us. And some of them said, you know, we need things for us and no one seems to offer us what we need. And I thought at the time, there was a real lack of communication. You know, that they should be able to, be someone they can go to and they should be aware of who they can go to and talk about their things. There's online courses, all kinds of stuff they could be doing. And there seems to be this gap.
Next slide is on monitoring systems. And so where a lot of the accountability comes in as well. So the first one is developing an aligned early release schedule with clearly defined activities. Leads to an effective implementation of articulated event systems that can be monitored for effective use and accountability. Second one, teacher leadership stipends are already established and in place to lead and enhance the development, communication, and implementation of systems aimed at increasing student achievement. Third monitoring system is the 15th and the associated leadership stipends, so they're already in place to provide effective review, feedback, and guidance specific to plan implementation, timeline, activities. And fourth one is administrative reporting timelines to the school board. I said that this will need to be established in order to provide information and receive feedback and guidance toward plan facilitation. And I think the charge discussion really gets at that as well as what presentations do you want to see? When do you want to see them? Especially, one of the things that might be goals set aside, but not a complete set of goals. it gives you time and information, and obviously, but that's a key part of ours, the monitoring the accountability system as well. So those are important to you guys. And the last one, this is starting to get in place, is around universal targets. So I talked to this about this previously as well. So currently there are 5 universal targets. These universal targets are targets that are being set across the entire state. So whether or not the board chooses to go forward as far as formally saying, okay, these are the goals that we're working on as well. I have to set goals for these targets. These targets will get us sent out to the Department of Ed, reviewed as far as part of our approval process. And then my understanding is, this is the first week now do this, is that there will be some communication with the Department of Ed as far as why particular goals were set or targets were set, where they were set. And so those are regular attenders, 3rd grade ELA, which is smarter balance, 9th grade on track to graduate, 4-year cohort graduation rate, and the 5-year cohort completion rate.
It always has a great layer of targets.
Yeah. And they're big. I like them because they are high level, they're long range. I've sat through many of work sessions where we have discussed 3rd grade reading, trying to decide, should we have a goal of 80% reading fluency, 90% reading, 100% reading, and then walk out and make a decision. And reading is a very difficult goal to set because there are so many intricacies to reading fluency, comprehension, vocabulary. It's just not a simple goal to set, but that is the document that is will go up on our website as well, so the community can see it. And then I will, if you don't have any feedback, one of things to go back to reconsider, we'll bring it back to you on the 27th for approval, and then we'll be ready to go to the Department of Ed first week of March, and then we'll start the Department of Ed conversation.
I know it's been explained before. What's the completion rate? What was that different from graduation rate?
So the cohort graduation rate takes kids when they come in first into high school and then so finishing 4 years.
Right.
The 5-year gives them one additional year of, say, going and finishing their GED.
Oh, okay.
So it's the understanding of a student may have entered in a typical year, gone through hardships, felt credit deficient, and it really gets us time to get them back on track to continue 5 years.
And does the state still track a student who is a freshman in your high school and then disappears to another high school and then they don't graduate on time? Does that still count, let's say, against Pleasant Hill or towards Pleasant Hill statistics? That was explained to me at one time. That's once they started at your school, they were with your school regardless of where they actually did graduate or assist.
So there are 2 different indicators for 4-year cohort, for 4-year graduation rate. One of them is the cohort, and one of them is what you're referencing is where does that student go, and then they don't ever find them again. And so there is that rate as well. But once a student leaves and they get picked up in another school, we find them, then that will transfer to that other school.
It does.
Yes, yeah, but there are, what I want to say though, is there are 2 different metrics that come out. One of them is the 4-year cohort graduation rate, and one of them, I think they just call it 4-year graduation rate, which captures the students that you don't find.
That may get lost. Well,
Yeah,
move to another state where you're there.
yeah. It's been good. I want to thank the administrators in the room as well, and folks that have helped, because it's been we joke about flying a plane while we're building it. We were not only flying the plane, we were picking up pieces from the past and history and trying to dig up archives.
It looks like you need a huge flow chart. That'd have to be 3-dimensional, to keep track of all this.
Throw it on the wall and sort and resort again, and proceed trying to make this clear and concise document as you can.
Yeah, we appreciate your hard work on it.
I will say, it's kind of like what Wilda was saying, it's like we kind of went through this with the SIA stuff. I mean, at some point. It feel good as a board member to. Like actually. Get in and actually start doing some of this work and reviewing this on a regular basis and have some kind of. And this is not coming from a standpoint of criticism. But just what I do, what I'd like to see is myself as a board member is to actually be getting in and reviewing this in a nice predictable rhythm and actually doing something with this. And I understand that after SIA, like right as that's happening, we're doing the pandemic, and so it's not a really great reference, but it's all I have. So
Yeah,
there's a couple of things I'd like to see added to this, like you were saying, but I mean, when it comes to this, that you're reporting from the I'll leave to you.
I believe that the outcomes and strategies are written in a way, and so Tony mentions Lane ESD, so they've been great partners in this. So I had 2 Lane ESD members come down last week. I met with them for about an hour. All of it for them, it was coherent, logical, articulated. There's a bunch of questions that we have to answer as well, as far as what we give to the state. They've since reviewed that, so I made updates to that. But the plan in this is that all of these are actionable items that we can get on a calendar. That you can see that when I bring you a calendar as far as really these days, they can come back to you again to be able to say, here's how these things align with your calendar. And so you can start to see, the outcomes as far as we're not just approving a calendar, but say approving a calendar, that calendar investments around like early release days actually means professional development on these particular days are aligned to the plan that we have in place. The timeline for this will be it's a 4-year plan that's budgeted for 2 years for the next biennium. The outcomes will actually, the targets will be like in the 5th year. So what ends up happening is 4-year plan, 2 years of budget, 2 years of budget, and in the 5th year, you go through this planning phase, which is nice that it's not happening again for quite a few years, except for the budget piece. So there is that opportunity to engage. Coming up with that.
it takes a lot of faith and hope. We've seen so many initiatives similar to this, that they do it for a year or two and then it kind of fades out and forget about it, it doesn't happen, it doesn't carry through, and it becomes really. But here we have another one, and it looks really good. So I'm an optimist. No, I we have a great team here. Jim and your administrators. But I would urge you not to let it fade away. And not be romance into a new initiative 2 years from now. And let's do one and do it right. And give it some time to develop. And I know they're saying that's what they're gonna do here, this timeline. But we've seen that before. So stay the hope.
Yes. Focus.
Be sure to help. Let the board help you in any way we can.
That's coming.
I'm trying, so.
Yeah, that's the piece. Monitoring and accountability.
We're bargaining. Yeah. Plan of alignment, not choose to become a crown sheet.
And it's hard to the board, because I don't wanna, be negative, but it's awfully easy for administrators to sort of sweet talk, and sweet talk at the end of things are fine. I think, well, Sorry, don't make me put that. in minutes. We don't have. Oh, you know, oh, this is what we did because, but it's hard to have to say that it was. So, need to, I guess, it's on us to figure out what they ask for. Make sure we are responsible. Or just saying, you know, not thinking about the board meeting until the next one.
Do you have any more questions, comments about the integrated guidance plan? Right, 9.3 charge session planning preparation brainstorming.
For me, this would be, what do you want me to prepare? What should I prepare for our next meeting? Which would actually be, I think, the charge meeting. Figure this going. And would it be, perhaps is it maybe too soon? Given we've got a number of things up in the air that may actually influence or provide direction to the charge.
I think the board charge is aligned with the district goals.
I think it sort of has to revolve around the integrated plan. And I don't know how much that is totally in place, or we should wait until that's in place.
We can, it will be, it could be late spring by the Department of Ed, by the time they get back. Based on the feedback I've got from LANISD right now is, it's the first time that everything that they were hearing from the state being captured. So they feel like it should go through pretty quick. I would say, big picture is starting to think ahead as far as a board agenda. We talked about doing the 3-part equity series through OSBA. So really kind of being deliberate about taking some time to do that. That in itself is a pretty big chunk of time and commitment. So I think beyond those 3 things, maybe having a discussion at the 27th, or a meeting at the 27th of the night about what types of reports you may want to see, and we can throw out some ideas. So, for instance, if as a board, we're as a board and as a team, we're to say, listen, yes, let's focus on those 5 universal targets. If you'll notice between 3rd grade and 9th grade, there's nothing in there. That doesn't mean that we're not doing anything. There's a whole host of assessments that's going on, whether it is Smarter Balance, the statewide assessment, or if it's more formative assessments regarding 3 times a year DILIS testing. And what does that look like then for Deborah and her team to come back in, say that mid-year piece, to be able to say, hey, in the beginning of the year, here's what our monitoring data look like. Here's what our mid-year looks like. Here are the changes that we are making to our reading groups. And it really is, you guys, a lot of this is how deeply maybe do you want to go in these reports this first year? Do you want even an example of for teams coming in and going through kind of a pseudo mock discussion around student staffing and what that might look like and how they walk through that process. So then helping important because at the high school and middle school, we're just now starting that and getting this process in place. There's Deborah's going to be in that work for a few years now.
I think in the past, somebody's brought up. I'm stealing other people's ideas. I can't remember where it was from, otherwise I would give them credit, but sixth grade reading. Like where are 6th graders at? Like we're measuring, when we're talking about 3rd grade, where the 6th graders at, because. Like if they're still behind, but I don't know what there is in place to, like you're saying, report wise, what there is to, give us anything we can track consistently.
Yeah. I'm not aware. Has our middle school been tested in the past?
No, so this is the first year we've actually, congratulations, everyone. we've actually implemented a phase of our SIP plan. So it's not only Pleasant Hill Elementary that's doing double screenings 3 times a year. We now did our very first one at the middle school level. So every 6th, 7th, and 8th grader has been universally screened with dibbles at the 6th grade level, 7th and 8th, because that's where it goes up to.
No targeted intervention in place, just we've assessed them and we've taken the data. So the next step is actually starting to get some targeted intervention for students and actually making a determination of. Based on the staffing that we have, we've already actually started conversations with Deborah as far as what curriculum and then what students, we're looking from a logical standpoint of how many students can we serve, which students do we choose to serve, what do we choose to serve in reading fluency, comprehension, vocabulary. So those decisions are still coming.
Did the teachers get that data though?
I don't know because I'm not involved in that side of it. I haven't seen it myself. I'm gonna defer.
We're finalizing it. If we have a goal for the 17th to have all of that brought together, and when we can really start to analyze. That was kind of interventions we're gonna be doing, and just kind of getting a better picture of what we're dealing with. We'll start to implement some of those things. We're gonna meet with the teacher group. And circle back to the data and have some conversations and create some space. Maybe we'll have some conversation around what the data means, but also how we're going to respond to it. And then we're going to test them one more time this spring. This is kind of a practice run in a lot of ways, but looking to get in three assessments next year. The progress monitoring.
This all highlights the need for professional development, some of which we've started and others that we need to know that it needs to happen. So for instance, in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, even history in the elementary level, you're generally not able to provide intensive services for your entire student body. And so we really have to sit down and make our decisions as far as where does the cutoff line happen and how groups are made. And then for secondary staff, where they're not reading teachers necessarily by trade, what does professional development look like for a science teacher to integrate strategies around vocabulary, how do you teach vocabulary, other than just expecting that a student can sound the word out, read it, and then understand how to use it. So there's a lot of professional development work to be done as well.
I would just hazard a guess that you're gonna find some wildly skewed or like some gaps there. Just considering the pandemic, the effect of the pandemic, and what we can do to get them in a better place by the time we're in 9th grade. But also moving forward, just to make sure that what we're doing in 3rd grade is working by the time they're in 6th grade. Because I mean, it sounds like we got a lot of great stuff in place for elementary stuff, but it's what does that look like when you're coming out and getting into, because we got 3 more years, I don't keep telling you guys this, but just from my perspective, like we got 3 more years getting ready to really start gearing up for after high school. And it would be great to hit the ground running and not even playing catch up still.
I think the sooner we can get the data out to teachers, the better. It's a thing of being a teacher. If you know you have kids that are really struggling, I mean, you can see it anyway, that you have the data in hand, and much more likely to say, okay, I need to do this, and this, and those.
We are balancing right now, a lot of professional development going out to staff that they haven't been accustomed to, so they're a little bit overwhelming. So we're trying to parse this stuff out over time as well, just not to collapse the system. Great job.
And then something that Rusty's brought up, I remember who to get rid of for this one, is just a way to, and this is really hard to quantify, but like, how students do once they leave.
We've talked about that. So the exit survey that we did start to do, it's not terribly expensive, but yeah, I mean. If we're not really taking a look at the picture beyond. We don't really know how successful we are.
Right.
So looking at budgeting that in for next year, to do that exit survey and see.
I mean, at the very least, as a board member, I know that they do this at like graduation. But, I mean, even if presented like in a package at the end of the school year, like where all the seniors are going. I mean, you could do that at a bigger school, but here that wouldn't be overwhelming information. Like, even just not specifics, like this student's going doing this, this thing, so it's, but how many of our students are going to school, how many of our students are going right into a career vocation. Just having that.
And that's part of the charge plan, I think, as well, as far as. By what day we want our counseling career center to come and report and what day we see.
Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously we need some direction from you on when it's reasonable to expect that kind of stuff. So we're like you say,
Yeah.
overwhelming.
I can provide all that in a calendar, and I can even come to you and say, or with administrators, say what kind of accountability measures really look. I use the word accountability just to be, I think, transparent, because they really shouldn't be. Their accountability measures when you come to give your report, right? So it's called what they are. But really, so we can come to say, here are 5 examples of reports that, you know, we look at bringing back to you in this next year. Out of those 5, you know, with the time frame that we've got, maybe 3 or 4 of them really make sense, which 3 or 4 might be look like wanting to actually have happened. And then we have our calendar put together and start to outline those things.
I'm a little confused all of a sudden about the timing. We talking about what we're doing next year, so this is a charge we need for starting next September.
That'd be my thought.
That we're on.
That's my
It's
assumption.
an odd time that, you know, we used to have a charge meeting in August. Then we February, we talked about the budgetary allocations. It sounds like we ought to go back. I didn't have it now, but we haven't had one. Then maybe take another look at it in August and then go back with August.
Quite possibly, because I think we have enough information as far as what I see when we use the budget and going through the budget process. That by the time we're out of that, I think we'll also then be aligned to really have an understanding of our charge would be correlated. Which I'm fine as well. I tend to think of myself as planning 2 or 3 months out in time, but I mean, in some cases, I think we're reporting about next.
Yeah, we could have our charge meeting, you know, now or in the next February, and then revisit it again in August and say, hey, this is what we thought last February, but.
Yeah.
Given the reality of what we're looking at. Not kind of, you know,
So if you wanted the 27th, I can come with some example reporting that would align. And if you guys want to think of things as well that you'd be interested in having, for instance, where our students headed. So we have that career and college center reporting as far as how many kids are in the college. How many kids are in a career, what fields are we looking at as far as careers?
Yeah, that, like what careers are doing, that would be awesome to get an idea of. It could be that specific. Yeah, I'm speaking for myself.
that'd be interesting data.
Speak for everybody.
Student. Yeah, that'd be interesting data for the student to see as well. That would be, golly. I haven't thought of doing that.
And that same about what we need to put in the chart thing. Yeah. For me, a data point is great. You need over time. And having something that's consistent over time is very elusive in the school world. It sounds like you're on the right track for that. I'll hold my breath. Like, well, I have hope.
Well, I mean, there may be, I mean, there may be things that change as far as what the districts have to report to. Department of Ed, but I think if we can finally get to a point where we're like, these are our goals as a district, we have control over whether or not that stuff changes. And I have no doubt that it'll change over time, but I don't know if it'll change necessarily as often as we're hearing it tonight. Because we can start off by taking the goals that Jim just went over. And make it our own and keep that for a longer period of time.
And those are the same goals we have already. You know, we have a little share.
Right.
And these align to so much of the work that you've already done, especially around student investment account spending that we've done with staffing, whether it's a student support advocate, the K-12 curriculum coordinator, another counselor, another administrator, special education staff. It all aligns. Right, so for the 27th, I'll bring back some reporting examples. Talk more about those, add to the list, and have to start to show that list over the next few months. Look at pushing a charge meeting further down the road, so it might make more sense.
I think so too. Give us some examples. We can probably look through it and your plan in more detail. Get our heads around it. Yeah.
Okay.
But that'd be a different charter than what.
Right, 10.0, other business. Who thank that, so planning board members, thank you like that.
I just want to thank you for our t-shirts. I think we should think, not in business, but it's a pleasure. Well, chili t-shirt, whether right from home. Yeah. Somebody else can.
I just wanted to announce that I'll be able to participate in the next board meeting, but I'll do it so remotely. So I can, there can be an adult home with my kids that are around bedtime. That's right.
Okay, is there something else? 1.0, next meeting, third session board meeting, February 27th, 7 p.m. right here. And thank you for sticking with us tonight. 12.0 adjourned.
Mhm.